Hey everybody, welcome to Q&A Roundup. So today, Shawshank AC writes, if a recruiter does not call me back for a long time, should I follow up and ask? Does that make me look desperate? Okay, Shawshank. It's actually not Shawshank. There's no W. It's Shawshank. Shawshank. Thank you for making me say that. It makes me feel really cool. No, this is actually a good question. Okay, first of all, number one, you should always send an email to follow up after every interview, okay? And this should happen the same day or the next day, no later, okay? And it's more of a thank you than, it's like a thank you note rather than a follow-up, okay? You're not asking for information one day later, okay? So you should be doing that, and that should be over email. Now, in addition to that, okay, if you haven't heard anything by, I'd say, the third day, okay, the third or fourth day, anywhere between there and a week, okay, then it is totally appropriate to follow up again, but this time, I would recommend you do it with a phone call, okay? Now, a lot of people freak out, especially a lot of young people. They freak out when I suggest you call someone. A lot of people are intimidated by this. Actually, it's really no big deal. It's actually very simple to do, and it is not awkward at all, as long as you know what to say, okay? Now, if you call them and you get a voicemail, okay, this is like a recruiter or a hiring manager. If you get their voicemail, just leave a voicemail. If they pick up, this is all you say, okay? You say, hello, this is Bill or whatever your name is. I was just calling to follow up about the job that I interviewed for 3 days ago or a week ago. Okay, you give them the name of the job just to see if there's been any news. Okay, and then you let them answer. Now, whether they say yes or no or whatever they say, okay, you say, no problem. Okay, thank you very much. Now, if the answer is no, you can ask one question. You can say, should I expect to hear anything? Or if I don't hear anything, that kind of signals that we're not moving forward. Is that how that works? And just let them answer that. Okay, and then whatever they say, you say, okay, no problem. Thank you very much. Have yourself a great day. Bye. Okay, that's all you do. So if you leave that type of message or you place that kind of phone call 3 days to a week after your interview and you haven't heard anything, that's completely appropriate. And the reason I recommend you do this by phone is because it has a positive effect. It signals that you are dedicated, you are interested, and you really want that job, okay? A lot of candidates that are just passive, sometimes it's because they just don't care. It's not really that important to them, okay? But if you call, you're elevating yourself possibly above the other candidates. So that's the reason I would say. Now, does it make me look desperate? No, it doesn't. Now, as I said, within reason, if you were to call the next day and follow up, is there any word? You know, that would make you look desperate. If you were to call every day, don't do that. If you left a voicemail or anything like that, or you've sent emails, if you send 3 emails and there's no response, or 3 voicemails and there's no response, that's pretty much the end of it in the vast majority of cases. So don't keep calling, because that does make you look desperate. Okay, so within reason, this is fine. But that's a great question. Thank you very much for that, Shawshank. Now, Alex M. writes, recently I was asked a question at a job interview. The interviewer said that everyone gets stressed now and again, and everyone has limits. She asked, how do I know that I'm stressed? How do you act when you are stressed? What is a good answer for this question? Well, this was in response to a video I did called How Do You Handle Stress? And my answer to this is basically kind of what I suggested in that video. They're just asking the question in a different form, okay? So if they say, how do you know you're stressed? And how do you act when you're stressed? If I was asked that question, I would say, well, I know when I'm stressed in the same way that I think everybody knows when they're stressed. In the same way you kind of know when you feel pain. It's just something that you can tell. Your blood pressure goes up, that kind of thing. Now, how do I act when I'm stressed? I found that, you just act appropriately and things just go well. And then you shut up, right? That was kind of the theme of that video. You give a short answer and then you stop talking, because the more you talk, the more you dwell on talking about how you're stressed and how you have to manage your stress. And it gets the interviewer thinking that you're a person who gets stressed often and you have to manage a lot of stress all the time. And you don't want to give that impression. That's not why you're at the job interview. So just make it nice and short, get off the question. So hopefully that helps. Let's see, who do we have here? We have a person called Person, and they ask, how do you respond when being asked a redundant question for the same questioning category? Just refer to the first answer. For example, I've been asked, why should we hire you? And why do you want to work here? And what are my strengths? At different times in the same interview. But the answer is the same. Okay, excellent question, Person. This is actually something that a lot of people have noticed. Now, I did a thing in the past where I explained that these 3 questions are all essentially the same question, okay? You answer all 3 by saying a bunch of positive things about yourself that convince them that you're the right person for the job, okay? So in that respect, they are the same question. Now, if they keep asking these questions over again, okay, do you give the same answer? Yes, in substance you do, but there's kind of some details here. First of all, don't repeat the same words like a robot. Obviously, that's not appropriate. Don't say things like I said before, and then say the same answer. Don't do that. That's people don't like that. It's kind of a little bit hostile, and it feels like you're offended. So don't do that. Remember, you're happy to explain. Okay, any question they ask you, you're happy to give an answer. Now, basically, you're going to be going over positive aspects of yourself, why they should hire you. If you've said all of them in the first question and there are no more, then you're going to want to give a very similar answer when they ask you a different form of this question again. Now think of it as a bonus, okay? This is an opportunity for you to reiterate what's awesome about you and why you're the person for the job. Okay, this is a good thing. Don't think of it like, oh no, I already said that once. That's fine if you said it once. Drive it home. And you could say something like, yeah, further to kind of what I was saying before, I do have this and I do have that and I'm excited about this, and then you could maybe go into another aspect of it or give a different example of it. But basically, yes, say these things. Make sure they've got them. Okay? So that's what I would say to that. Another good question. Okay, Stephen Alexander writes, I had an interview last week for a promotion and something similar came up. What's the thing you hate most about your job? They were very persistent with this question too. Would you have any generic suggestions? Okay, now this comment was in response to a video I did called, What is Your Weakness? Okay, now in that video, the general theme was, if they ask you, what is your weakness? They want to hear a negative thing about you, okay? You basically say something that you do that's good, but then through no fault of your own, it maybe kind of results in something bad, but then you say something good again about yourself that fixes that. I know that sounds complicated, but basically you would use that to answer this, okay? So if they ask you, what do you hate most about your job? Let's say somebody asked me that right now, and I haven't rehearsed for this or anything. I would say, well, okay, I'll tell you what. If you're a manager, first of all, say you hate firing people, okay? That's the perfect answer if you're in a job where you manage people, because everybody will understand that answer. And it's actually a good thing that you don't like firing people. That shows you're normal, okay? People will understand. Now, if you're not in a job where you manage people, and I was asked this, I would say, well, what I don't really like about my job is occasionally having to deal with very negative, officious, offensive people. that talk to you in an inappropriate way. Now, this doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it can be a downer. But I found that, as long as you maintain your cool and you behave appropriately and professionally, it ends up not being a huge problem. Okay, but that's one element that I don't like, and I don't think most normal people don't like either. So something like that would probably be good. Okay, to this. That's another very good question. It's great that you guys are sending in these awesome questions here. Okay, here's another one. Poseidon Entertainment Company. Oh, it's not Poseidon, it's Poseidon. There's no E in it. Okay, so Poseidon Entertainment Company. Okay, they write, interesting. I am quite young and I haven't done many interviews, but my first instinct is often to have an idea of the range for the position before I even apply. I guess a salary range for the position. Then try to flip the question around, such as, well, although it's a bit on the nose, why is this position open? Essentially gauge that response and try to use it. Constantly turning the conversation back around whenever possible, yet still being both compliant and receptive. Okay, actually, this is not really a question, it's more of a statement, but that's fine within reason, okay? The problem is that if you make a habit of whenever they ask you a question, you turn it around and you ask them a question, that can get quite tiresome for the interviewer. It tends to slow everything down. And, so I wouldn't be doing that too often. It's good to do once in a while. Every couple of questions, you ask them something. That's perfectly fine. But if you're doing it constantly, that might come out as a negative for you, okay? Now, don't say, well, although it is a bit on the nose, why? Because it's not really on the nose, and the fact that you're saying that makes it sound like it is on the nose. You could just say simply, I was actually wondering, what led to this positioning opening up? Did somebody retire, or what's the deal? That wouldn't be on the nose to say something like that. Okay. Also, at the end of a lot of job interviews, they usually ask you, do you have any questions for us? And that would be a good time to bring up questions like this. Why is this position open? Things like that. Okay. So that's good, but just don't go too far with that. You don't want to annoy the interviewer by doing this too often. Okay. Fergus McLeod. Fergus McLeod says, well, it's no problem for me to stay motivated and try again if I fail, but can we have a moment of silence for those graduates trying to find a job in the middle of a pandemic? Seems like you need a job to find a job. Companies either auto-reject my applications without reading, or say I do fit their needs perfectly, but offer salaries that are literally insulting. Talking about minimum wage offers for a master's degree in business. RIP. Okay, yeah, Fergus, Mr. McLeod. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough for a lot of people right now, and it is a bit of a challenge. Now, what I would say to anyone who is in the middle of a job search and they've been at it for a while and it's not really going anywhere fast, is make sure that you're not just doing the same thing. You're not just looking in one place, okay? You're looking in many places. Almost like an octopus, it's got many arms or legs or whatever you call them, tentacles. It's doing several things, okay? The great thing about octopi is that they have 8 arms, but they can't do 8 things at once because their brains are not sophisticated enough. Well, ours are, I guess I should say, we can, okay? So if you're doing a job interview campaign or a job search campaign, look in the posted job market from a variety of sources. Look in the hidden job market from a variety of sources, okay? If you've never heard of the hidden job market, that is often the solution to a job search stalemate, okay? So if you don't know what that is or you're not looking there, check it out. I've done multiple videos on it. There's a ton of videos out there. There's You could just get on Google and learn about it without videos at all. I also have a course if you really, really want to get into it. I take you through everything there. There's a link in the description. But that would be my solution, okay? Make sure that you're looking in multiple places, because there's a limit to the success you're going to have by applying for jobs that are posted publicly, okay? It's only something like 20% of all the jobs out there. The other 80% are hidden, so you want to make sure you're tapping that. Okay, but yes, you're absolutely correct. It is very tough. Now, final question here by A. Javago. Awesome. It's an awesome name, by the way. A. Javago says, such a useful channel. Had some rather tricky scripted interview questions thrown at me recently. And then lists 5 questions. So I'm gonna answer a couple of these, or else I'd be here for another half an hour. It says, how would you repair a broken relationship at work? If ever anyone asks you that, the answer is always communication. Good communication. Go and really communicate with that person. Try and understand their feelings and their perspective, and see if you can try to make them understand your perspective and your thoughts and feelings on that topic. And usually that smooths things over. It might not happen instantly, but that is the path to resolving conflict. Communication. Okay, always remember that. Any type of question in a job interview about fixing relationships or dealing with conflict, the answer is always good communication. Okay. A. Javago also says, what is your method of problem solving? Wow. Everyone loves these general questions, right? They're so general that, the answers are almost meaningless. But what I would say to that is, before you can start trying to find a solution, you got to make sure that you've correctly identified the problem. A lot of times there's an immediate cause of a problem, and then there's a root cause of the problem. And the problem is people have a knee-jerk reaction to the immediate cause of the problem, and they try and fix that, but that's not really what needs solving. It's the root cause. So I make sure that I'm really looking for a root cause and addressing that, and putting time into identifying the problem before I just blindly start solving what I see in front of me. Okay, that's one possible answer to that. And also, A. Javago asks, how do you ensure someone has properly understood something? Well, in a lot of communication courses, when they teach communication in formal education, the way to ensure that you've had proper communication, the practical easiest thing to do is to get them to repeat it. Okay, so whether you're dealing with somebody where you don't quite share the same native language, or you're an accountant talking to an engineer, or whatever situation, after you've communicated, okay, the thing that you want them to know, ask them to repeat it. Okay, and that will tell you what they understand. So if they don't quite understand everything, then you have the opportunity to correct it. So lather, rinse, repeat, and ask them again, okay, can you repeat back? And then if they've got the whole thing, you say, excellent, right on. And then you know that the communication happened well. Okay, so there you go. So thank you very much for all these awesome questions. It's great to see so many people asking so many awesome questions in the comments. Unfortunately, I can't answer them all. I wish I could. But keep sending them in, and I will try and do more of these in the future. Until next time, you guys are awesome. Take care.